Hey, Sarah.
I've never seen a tree used as a murder weapon before.
Detective Hudson. Hudson, where were you the morning she was killed? You have an alibi for the time of the murder?
He's with me. I don't think they allow pets in the building.
He's a highly trained law enforcement animal. It's a little sensitive when you call him a pet.
Hudson and Rex without John Reardon is not Hudson and Rex. It is something else entirely. A shell of a show wearing the same name, walking the same streets of St. John's, but missing the one thing that made millions of people fall in love with it in the first place. And now, after everything that happened in Season 8, after all the backlash, all the fan letters, all the social media posts, all the heartbreak, the question every single one of us has been asking is finally getting an answer. Is John Reardon coming back for Season 9? And I have to be honest with you, what I found is not what I was hoping for. Not even close. To really understand what is happening right now with Season 9, we need to go back to where all of this started, because this story did not begin with Season 8. It did not begin with City TV's announcement about Mark becoming the new lead. It began much earlier than that, in a moment that had nothing to do with the show at all, and everything to do with a man who gave this series everything he had. John Reardon was diagnosed with tonsil cancer, and when that news first came out, the entire Hudson and Rex fanbase held its breath. This was not just an actor. This was Charlie Hudson, the face of the show, the reason so many of us tuned in every single week. A man whose chemistry with Rex, whose warmth, whose charm, whose ability to make you feel like you were watching a real person and not just a television character, was the beating heart of everything Hudson and Rex was built on. And when he disappeared from our screens mid-season 7, the show felt it immediately. Every episode without him felt like something was missing. Because something was missing, the most important thing. But here is the part that made it hurt even more. John did not disappear quietly. He kept his fans updated. He was open about his treatment. He visited the set whenever he could. He was posting on Instagram, showing up for the people around him even while he was going through one of the hardest experiences a person can go through. And when he finally announced that his cancer treatment had been completed, it felt like the ending of a difficult chapter and the beginning of something good. It felt like a comeback story. The kind of story you would actually want to see play out on screen. That is why the City TV announcement hit so hard, because it did not just take Charlie away from us, it took away the comeback. It took away the moment we were all waiting for. John Reardon himself confirmed that he was ready to return. Ready, cleared by his doctors, wanting to come back, excited to step back onto that set and pick up where he left off. And the production team said no. They had already moved in a different direction. They had already decided that Mark was the future of the show. And just like that, the door was closed on Charlie Hudson. Season 8 then aired with this enormous weight hanging over it before a single episode even played. Fans went in already grieving, already frustrated, already feeling like something had been taken from them unfairly. And the show did nothing to address that. Charlie's name was barely spoken. The mission he went on in Season 7 was never resolved. There was no closure, no acknowledgement, no real goodbye, just silence. And then a single episode where we saw Charlie only in flashbacks. One episode, flashbacks. That was all we got after everything John Reardon gave to this show across 7 seasons. It was not just disappointing, it was disrespectful. And the ratings reflected exactly how fans felt about it. Season 8 became the lowest performing season in the history of Hudson and Rex. Viewership dropped. Social media turned against the direction the show had taken. Letters were sent to City TV in the thousands, fans demanding John's return, fans making it clear that without Charlie Hudson, they simply were not interested in watching anymore. And honestly, looking back at Season 8 now, it is very easy to understand why. Mark is not a bad character on paper. He is competent. He is serious. He is professional. But that is exactly the problem. Hudson and Rex was never supposed to be a serious police procedural. It was supposed to be warm. It was supposed to have heart. Charlie brought lightness to every scene he was in. He made you care about the cases because you cared about him first. Mark does not do that. Mark cannot do that. Not because the actor is not talented, but because the character is built completely differently, and that difference changes the entire feeling of the show in a way that the audience was never going to accept quietly. And so here we are. Season 8 is over. The damage has been done. And now every single fan of this show is looking towards Season 9 and asking the same question. Does John Reardon come back? Does the production team listen? Does Charlie Hudson get the return he deserves? Because if the answer is no, then we are not just talking about one bad season anymore. We are talking about the permanent decline of a show that genuinely did not have to end this way. Let me tell you something that genuinely shocked me when I first found out about it. While fans were still in the middle of processing Season 8, while the backlash was still loud, while thousands of letters were still being sent to City TV, while the comment sections across every Hudson and Rex post were filled with anger and disappointment and heartbreak, the production team was already filming season 9. Already. Not planning it. Not discussing it. Not sitting down and evaluating the damage season 8 had done and deciding what the right move forward was. Filming. Full production. Done and wrapped before the season 8 ratings even had a chance to come in properly, and I want you to sit with that for a second. Because it says a lot. It says that the decision to move forward without John Reardon was never up for debate. It was never something the production team was going to reconsider no matter how loud the fans got. The moment they decided Mark was the new lead, that was it. The door was closed, the plan was locked in, and nothing the audience said or did was going to change the direction they had already committed to. Season 9 was not made in response to Season 8's performance. It was made in complete ignorance of it. And that is the part that genuinely hurts the most, not just as a fan of the show, but as someone who believed that the people behind Hudson and Rex actually cared about what made it special in the first place. Now the confirmation of Season 9 filming did not come from an official City TV announcement. It came from Victoria Manson, a crew member connected to the show, who mentioned in an Instagram post that filming had wrapped. That one post. That is all it took to confirm what a lot of us were dreading. And what made it worse was the silence from John Reardon himself. Because if John had been involved in Season 9 in any capacity, we would know. This man has been open with his fans throughout this entire journey. He shared his cancer diagnosis. He shared his treatment updates. He shared his excitement about returning. He shared his heartbreak when the production team told him they were not continuing with him. John Reardon does not hide things from the people who support him. So when Season 9 filming wraps and John says absolutely nothing about it, that silence is not ambiguous. That silence is an answer, and the answer is that John Reardon is not in Season 9. Charlie Hudson is not coming back. Whatever version of Hudson and Rex Season 9 is, it is a version that has fully moved on from the character and the actor that built this entire show from the ground up. And the production team made that choice knowingly. They made it after seeing the fan reaction to Season 7. They made it after reading those thousands of letters. They made it after watching the Season 8 ratings come in lower than anything this show had ever posted before. They looked at all of that information and still decided that moving forward without John was the right call. Which tells you everything you need to know about how much weight fan opinion actually carries when it comes to the decisions being made behind the scenes of this show. But here is where things get even more complicated. Because even though Season 9 has reportedly finished filming, there has been no official renewal announcement from City TV. And that is a very unusual situation to be in. Normally when a show is renewed, the network makes noise about it. They post about it. They generate excitement. They let the audience know that another season is coming and give people a reason to stay invested. City TV has done none of that for Season 9. There has been no announcement, no trailer, no premiere date, no promotional content of any kind. And the Hudson and Rex official Instagram page, which you would expect to be the first place that kind of news appears, has gone almost completely quiet. No posts about the Season 8 finale. No posts about what comes next. Just silence, and that silence, combined with everything else we know, is starting to feel very significant. Because there are really only two explanations for why a network would film a new season of a show and then go completely quiet about it. Either they are planning a surprise announcement and the timing just has not come yet, or they are genuinely unsure whether airing Season 9 is the right decision given how badly Season 8 performed. And when I look at everything surrounding Hudson and Rex right now, the ratings drop, the fan backlash, the loss of subscribers, the complete absence of any promotional activity, the second explanation feels much more likely than the first. City TV is a network that has to make business decisions. And the business case for airing Season 9 of Hudson and Rex right now is not a strong one. The show's reputation has taken serious damage. The audience that was loyal to it for 7 seasons has made it very clear that their loyalty was to Charlie Hudson and to John Reardon, not to the show as a brand. Without that core audience showing up, Season 9 risks performing even worse than Season 8. And for a network, a second consecutive season of declining numbers is not just a bad look. It is a financial problem. It is a question of whether the resources being put into this show are worth what they are getting back. And if the answer to that question is no, then Season 9 might never actually air at all. Regardless of the fact that it has already been filmed, there is a conversation that keeps coming up in the Hudson and Rex fanbase, and I want to address it directly. Because a lot of people, especially those who are still holding on to hope for this show, keep saying the same thing. They say give Mark a chance. They say the show can reinvent itself. They say that maybe with enough time, audiences will warm up to the new direction and Hudson and Rex can find its footing again. And I understand why people say that. I understand the impulse to stay optimistic. I understand not wanting to accept that something you loved is gone. But I think if we are being completely honest with ourselves, we already know that is not what is happening here. And the reason we know that comes down to something much deeper than just missing a familiar face on screen 8. It was a show about a detective who happened to work alongside the most extraordinary dog anyone had ever seen on television. And the magic of that combination worked specifically because of who Charlie Hudson was as a person. Charlie was warm. He was funny without trying too hard. He had this effortless likability that made you want to spend an hour with him every week regardless of what the case was about. You could have given Charlie Hudson the most boring, straightforward mystery to solve and it still would have been entertaining because watching him navigate it, watching him interact with Rex, watching him talk to witnesses and colleagues and suspects with that particular energy he had, that was the show. That was what people were actually watching, and here is the thing about that kind of screen presence. You cannot replace it by simply putting someone else in the same role with a similar job title. Mark is not Charlie. He was never designed to be Charlie. The character was written differently from the very beginning. Where Charlie was relaxed and charming and easy, Mark is focused and serious and professional. And individually, those are not bad qualities for a television character to have. In a different show, built around a different premise, Mark might work perfectly well. But in Hudson and Rex, in a show that was always built on warmth and personality and the kind of human connection that made Rex's partnership with his handler feel genuinely emotional, that serious and professional energy creates a wall between the character and the audience. You watch Mark do his job and you appreciate that he is competent, but you do not feel anything for him. And feeling something is the entire point. This is not something that can be fixed with better writing or more screen time or a stronger character arc. The problem is structural. The foundation that Hudson and Rex was built on required a specific kind of lead character, and that character was Charlie Hudson. Everything around him, Rex, the supporting cast, the tone of the cases, the humor, the heart, all of it was calibrated to work alongside Charlie's specific energy. When you remove that energy and replace it with something fundamentally different, you are not just changing one element of the show, you are changing the chemistry of everything. The supporting characters feel different because they are reacting to a different person. Rex feels different because his dynamic with his handler is built on a completely different emotional foundation. Even the cases feel different because the way they are approached and the way they are resolved carries a different emotional weight without Charlie at the center of it, and the audience felt all of this immediately, not after several episodes of adjustment, not after giving the new direction a fair chance. Immediately, because audiences are smarter than television executives often give them credit for. Fans of a show know what that show feels like. They know its rhythm, they know its emotional temperature, and they know the moment something fundamental has changed. Season 8 did not feel like Hudson and Rex. It felt like a different show that happened to feature Rex and some familiar supporting characters. And no amount of goodwill toward the production team or patience from the audience was going to change that feeling because the feeling was correct. Something fundamental had changed. The most important thing had changed. Now I want to talk about something that I think gets overlooked in this conversation. Because most of the focus when it comes to John Reardon's departure has been on the impact it had on the fans. And that impact was real and significant and completely valid. But I think we also need to acknowledge the impact it had on the show's ability to tell stories going forward. Because Hudson and Rex was not just built on Charlie's personality, it was built on Charlie's history. 7 seasons of character development. 7 seasons of relationships, growth, backstory, emotional investment. Fans did not just love Charlie because he was charming, they loved him because they had spent years with him. They knew who he was. They knew what he had been through. They cared about his future because they had watched his past. Mark has none of that. He arrived in season 7 as a new character and was suddenly handed the lead role of a show with 7 seasons of established mythology and emotional history behind it. And the audience was simply expected to transfer all of the investment they had built up over years to this new person immediately. That is an enormous ask. That is actually an almost impossible ask. Because emotional investment in a television character is not something that can be manufactured overnight. It is built slowly, episode by episode, season by season, through shared experiences and moments that accumulate over time. Mark had none of that accumulation going into season 8. And Season 8 did not give him enough room to start building it either, because the shadow of Charlie's absence was too large and too present for anything Mark did to land the way it needed to. This is why I genuinely believe that no version of Hudson and Rex without John Reardon can succeed the way this show once succeeded. It is not about stubbornness. It is not about fans refusing to move on. It is about the simple fact that what made this show work cannot be recreated with different ingredients. The formula required Charlie Hudson specifically. And without him, what you are left with is something that carries the name and some of the visual elements of Hudson and Rex but none of its soul.